they turned me off again when I was in mid-rant. So starting part 3 for today. Let's see if y'all find me over here. And we're only on for 45 more minutes. Allegedly. Why does Facebook keep disconnecting me? Well, it's not Facebook. It keeps saying that I have a bad internet connection. So, but now that it shut me off mid-rant. No, Alex, there's no time limit. So it's just, I'm having crappy internet service today, but I know our weather is kind of funky. It was kind of snowing earlier, but, but snowing like rain, it wasn't a whole lot of snow, no accumulation type thing. So I don't know if that's messing with me. No idea. So Christy's laughing at me. So if I'm cut off again this time, that will end it for today. So, but to summarize, the court has now sided with the state in denying the state, Kathleen's, is it called a remand, stay, whatever, for scientific testing. Christy says, I said, fuck them all, Jax. You know your heart and intentions are in the right place. Oh, yeah. I'm like, what? And it's like, oh, it's the rant I was on when I got cut off. Mike says, I'm still here, still not fake. Deborah says, very wet snow here. I thought it was my service losing you. And Natasha says, snowing like a mofo here. I haven't even looked at our weather to see if I'm really getting any snow. We've been lucky so far here in Chicagoland that we've had a really tame winter so far. Yeah, Danielle says, Stephen could have had hella commissary with that money. Heidi says, back researching Tony Evers on corruption. Christy says, yes, ranting about money going to Melissa's family. Tara says, the fact that Stephen and Brendan didn't receive a dime is a disgrace. Yeah. Leanne says, I need to read up about Melissa. I'm not familiar with her case. Sounds heartbreaking, though. You can go to YouTube or just Google blaming Melissa, 48 hours blaming Melissa, and 48 hours the fight for Melissa. And that's where you can see 2 episodes on Melissa's case that Kathleen is in. And Kathleen isn't filing for Melissa until March is the next one. Shut up, Christy, almost 70 there. Deborah says, the family should be raising money to pay KZ, not lining their own pockets. Right. I agree. I get so bothered by, like, when we've posted on here. Oh, my boyfriend asking me what time is movie tonight and not going. Sorry. What was I saying now? What was I saying now? Now I'm distracted because he's asking me about the movie. Oh, okay. Now I remember. When I would post on here, donate here on Kathleen's website. And they're like, why would you give money to her? Well, just because, she's a successful attorney and is doing this pro bono doesn't mean she should have to pay out of her pocket for this stuff. So again, if you're a supporter of Stevens and want to help, then you should care more about paying to make sure the scientific testing can be done instead of carpeting in a trailer that Dolores doesn't care if she has new carpeting. Just saying. Natasha says, I can't even believe they denied that. There would be public outrage here if this happened in Canada. You know, United States is supposed to be, you know, this great country. And, oh, okay, I'm not even going to get started on the politics. 57 in Philly. Nice. Tracy says, hiya from Newcastle in the UK. I hope they get justice. It actually breaks my heart. Yeah. Mamie says, I need to look into Melissa's case too. I've not seen this. Poor girl. Yeah, Melissa's case. And I'll give y'all a little scoop. We're going to be doing a Facebook Live on Stephen Avery Project with somebody next week who has investigated Melissa's case. And I know people are going to get really mad at me on why am I spotlighting Melissa's case on Stephen Avery Project. Why? Because Stephen Avery Project has how many people? Come on, other page, go here. Hold on. But we've got like what, 184,240 people currently on Stephen Avery Project. So I want Melissa's case exposed to a wide audience. So yeah, I'm going to do a Facebook Live over there on the public page on Melissa's case, where we're going to educate people on that case. But Melissa's case is Stephen and Brendan's combined. Young girl with a low IQ. After 9 hours of an interrogation where she said how many times she didn't do this. And then eventually they're telling her, it was an accident. Just say it's an accident. It'll all be okay. And so then Melissa starts parroting what it was they wanted her to say. And mid-January, it will be the 10-year anniversary that Melissa has been in prison. And there's a whole lot of corruption in that case, a lot of cover-up, a lot of doctoring evidence. It has it all. So stay tuned for that. When we have that Facebook Live finalized, you'll learn about it. Jen says, just tuning in, what's going on? The first we got notice that the state filed a response to Kathleen asking for a stay for the scientific testing. And then while we've been live, the court has agreed with the state and denied the request. Laura says, any idea when we will find out if they are allowed to test the bones? Sorry if been asked, just join chat. I just answered that one. Oh, and other people are answering you. Deborah says, then to have Barb dissing KZ when she is their way out. They should be bending over backwards to help her. Also, sending money to her allows her to keep going to help them and help others. Right. Yeah. It's, everybody should understand that Brendan's best chance at freedom is Kathleen Zellner. So I get Barb being upset at her husband and other son, but that's where the evidence is pointing. So just like when we talk about the Hallback family, wouldn't you want to look at the evidence? Same should go for Barb, but she won't look at it either. Tammy says, you're a great soul, and thank you for all your time being live for all of us. I'm pretty new and look forward to the live events. Well, thank you, Tammy. Leanne says, why? Because you can, and it's your page, so fuck them. Maz says, hi, what's happening tonight? Hopefully you've gotten that answer now since the time it took me to get to your question. Deborah says, Who did she file with to request a testing for DNA, and why no response on that yet? I'd like to know. That is a yes or no. Pretty simple, you would think. Yeah. Mamie says, so I have a week to get in tune with this, Jax. Love it. Kevin says, what you mean court has denied, is it to do with bones testing? Correct, Kevin. Tracy says, where can you find out about Melissa you're talking about? Here's Melissa's page. If I did that right. Melissa Kaluzinski is not a Texas case, Tina. It's in Illinois. Maggie says, I'd like a page for Melissa's case that updates like the Stephen Avery Project. I just posted that. It's called Official Justice for Melissa Kaluzinski Family Page. And that is run by Melissa's aunt, Helen. So, but she's not on as obsessively as we are here at Stephen Avery Project. So if you request to be a member there, I'm a moderator there, but I'm kind of hands off. Helen runs everything over there, so I don't approve members or anything. So it may be a while before you're approved over there. But we're going to keep updating people in Gossip and Stephen Avery Project on Melissa's case. And if people don't like it, then skip it. But Melissa's case needs to be heard. Heather says, don't Ben's parents want to know what happened to their son? And that's pertaining to Melissa's case because, see, Melissa's accused of killing a 16-month-old child at a daycare that she worked at. And there is so much on that, Heather. The family got a multi-million-dollar payout on this. So, that might have something to do with them not being too concerned on knowing what actually happened. Gwendolyn said, very happy for you to highlight Melissa's case. It's a shit show of an ordeal for her too. Thank you. Kevin says, what's going on? I am lost here. The state and the court denied the stay for the rapid DNA ID testing. So Liz, now Kathleen has until February 1st to turn in her filing that she was originally going to be turning in on December 20th. Alex says, what is wrong with America? Oh, don't get me started. I thought it's the most awesome country. Well, I still think so. But if I someday visit the U.S., I will go to the other side of the street if I see the police. Well, there's good and bad in everything. There's good teachers and bad teachers, good plumbers, bad plumbers, good cops, bad cops. So you just have to, you just have to be aware and smart. I'm an activist, okay? So I'm sure everywhere around the world hears about the shootings in Chicago, right? You know, it's a big deal. A lot of people are murdered in Chicago. I have a friend who has lost not one, but two children who have been murdered due to gun violence in Chicago, 20 years apart. When she lost her 16-year-old daughter, she was pregnant at that time with her son, who was then murdered 20 years later. And it is unsolved. And the other day was the 6-year anniversary of the murder of her son. And every year on the anniversary of his murder, she has people walk around her neighborhood where he was murdered and pass out flyers because there is a $10,000 reward to find her son's killer. You can see I'm white. They are black, and it is a black neighborhood. We first went to a church where there was a press conference that the church was full of mothers who have lost their children to gun violence. That spoke on that. And then we drove to my friend's house to go do the flyers. When we got there, there were 2 police cars on the street. And so it's really funny, but me being a white girl, I see these cops. I used to, prior to making a murderer, and sorry, I can't sit still, would be, oh, there's cops there, whatever. But now I'm like, what are they doing here? And so I'm asking all, because I was like one of 3 white people in the whole crowd of people there. But I'm instantly saying to people, what are the cops doing here? And then one of the other white people who I'm friends with, I say to her, okay, Holly, we need to be watching what this is that's going on here, because it's our job as the white people that if these cops are here to harass the black people, we need to take center stage. It's our job as an ally to get in the way of all this. But it turns out the cops were there because, again, me living in my ignorance, didn't realize that that's like a bad neighborhood. It looked like any other neighborhood to me. So the cops were there to kind of make sure we were okay. So here I am again, white girl walking around this black bad neighborhood by myself, because we were all divided up for different places that we were going house to house to bring these flyers. So cops were patrolling the area as we were doing that. And a cop had assigned me to go do this one part. And so I had done that. And then I was walking back to my car, and a cop pulls up and goes, hey, you want me to drive you back? And I'm like, no, that's okay. I got this. Because I'm like not wanting to get in his car, because I'm like not trusting the cop, which is dumb, because the cop isn't doing anything to make me not trust him. I just have this instant now distrust of him. So I had gotten in my car, went back to the house, got a new location where they wanted me to pass out flyers. So then I went there. And so I was walking one side of that street, and 2 black women were walking on the other side. And then a police officer pulled up and he says, hey, can I pinch some of those? Okay, sorry. And so he was meaning the flyers. So then what the cop had done is, so I gave him some of the flyers, and he went to the end of the street that I was doing. And so he was going door to door as I was going to door, then we met in the middle. And then another cop was going to drive the 2 women back to the house. And so then they had said to me, you want to go? You want the ride back? And it's like, all right, if they're going to get in, I'm going to get in. And, to tell you the honest to God truth, I know my haters won't believe this, but it's the first time I've ever been in a police car. It was kind of weird. And so the black woman who's in the back seat with me is kind of freaking out. So she's saying at the very start too, she's like, do I need to keep my foot out the door and keep this door open? Because, she knows once that door shuts, she's locked in there. And now the woman is worried about where she's going to be taken. But this long story just goes back to these cops were doing a good thing. They were supporting us doing that. They were protecting us. They were helping. And I'm instantly going, ooh, these are going to be bad cops. They were good guys. So there's good cops, there's bad cops. So case by case basis. Natasha, Barb left her teenage son alone to be interrogated by police, so I highly doubt she'll help Kathleen or anyone else. Correct. So Barb was manipulated. And you got to remember that Barb has that low IQ too. She's dumb. So she was manipulated, and that she was told, it's better if you're not in there. But I don't care. If that were me, you're not having my kid in that room without me there. And they did manipulate things too. Like they were questioning Brendan at one time while she was literally getting divorced from Tom Yonda. So she was across town at the courthouse going through her divorce. So she couldn't physically be there. So Barb's not as bad as she's sometimes made out to be. but she still didn't do what she should have for Brendan. People saying hello. Laura saying, I'm so mad. I can't believe they've denied it, but then actually I can. They hoped for more, destroying my faith in humanity. Well, the testing can still happen. There's just not a pause in what was already happening to do the testing. Am I making sense there? Deborah says, I think people are confused. They did not deny the DNA testing. Right, Deborah. And I know I've said that too, because in essence, that's how it feels, is that the DNA testing has been denied, but it can still be done. So everybody listen to Deborah. Don't listen to me, because I don't know what I'm talking about. And I'm not being snarky on it. I'm speaking truthfully there. Heidi says, from what I'm reading about new governor, looks positive regarding correcting Walker corruption. Good. Maggie says, I absolutely adore Melissa's story and tugs at my heart. Please keep us posted wherever, whenever possible. Thanks. Well, thank you, Maggie, for understanding. Natasha says, be aware is right. Be aware to keep your damn mouth shut without the presence of a lawyer. Correct. Natasha, that's what I say to people. Just lawyer, lawyer, lawyer. Only word you say, lawyer, nothing. You know, I know previously to making a murder, I would have felt I look guilty if I asked for a lawyer. I'm not guilty. I'm just going to explain to you what happened. It makes all sense. I'm going to tell you this, and, you know, I'm going to be on my way. But you never know what narrative they're trying to push. So, lawyer. But just like when we're talking about there's good and bad at everything. If you cannot afford a lawyer, one will be appointed to you. You could get a good public defender, and you could get Kaczynski. Everything's a gamble. The DNA testing is still pending, correct? I think Kathleen still can pursue it. It's just this won't get paused. Alex is now 100% awake and almost 1 a.m. here. Well, it's 5:39 p.m. here, and my boyfriend's on his way home from work, even though he usually works Friday nights. It's Friday, right? Oh my God, after the holiday, it's really hard to remember what's going on. Sand, so are they still able to test the bones? Well, I guess that they can still pursue it. I don't know exactly. Deborah needs to answer, because I don't know. Julie says, well, that's a horse of a different color. Oh, Wizard of Oz. That makes me feel better. Thank you, Deborah. I understand now. Heidi says, oh my God, Josh Call, new coming Attorney General's mother is Peg Lachenslager. Yeah, I know. Susan says, when is court judge response supposed to come out? It already did today, and the court agreed with the state. So now we go back to Kathleen having to file her brief that the date is now set for February 1st. Liz said, I had to tell my 9-year-old niece that. Say I have nothing to say to the police without mommy, poppy, or a lawyer. Right. Well, and Liz, that's actually, we have the juvenile interrogation protection law petition that I worked on with Brendan's lawyers. And it was one of his lawyers, Laura Nyrider, because initially we were wording it to say that a parent or an attorney needed to be present. And Laura is the one that made me see that it needs to be a lawyer, not a parent. And I agree, because just as you all ask me legal questions here, and I'm like, I don't know this shit. So being in a room with my son, if I had been Barb in the room with Brendan, may not have been to his benefit. I mean, I would have shut the shit down. But it's like, if you're going to accuse my kid of doing something I know he didn't do, I'm going to lose my mind. And I'm going to be hysterical and nuts, and might not be best for his defense. So that's why you need an attorney there who knows the law. So, and Alex says, yes, that's true. Bad and good cops, I'm sure. There are more good, but my feeling is all the bad ones are in this one town. Well, but that's another thing that I always point out, and I forget myself. It's the Manitowoc Sheriff's Department that were shitty. The police department were not. It's two different entities. So we're just all used to saying cops, but it's not the police department. It's the sheriff's department. Oh, yeah, Peg died. Mike says, I've been charged with a felony because the police around me are corrupt as well. They charged me because I told them I needed a lawyer to speak to me. Charges were dropped, LOL. Good for you. That takes balls. I really do think it takes balls, because like, I previously to this thought, I'm going to look horrible if I ask for a lawyer. Why do I need a lawyer if I'm innocent and I'm just going to explain it to you? So, and to stand up to authority figures, that's tough to do. So, but it's just, if there's only one thing we take away from Making a Murderer or any of these cases of the wrongfully accused or the people that are coerced into false confessions, is don't open your mouth. Don't talk to them. Get a lawyer in that room and get them recording. Where's the video? Kitty says, I think they denied this, trying to not give her any more time to add to the motion, kind of forcing her hand and submit sooner than later. Yeah. Angela says, does Melissa have an activist site like this? Well, she's got, I've shared it in here. It's called Official Justice for Melissa Kalyazinski Facebook family page. And that's the group where stuff is posted. You can also go to, whoops. Stupid. Kathleen Zellner's website that I'm bringing up over here, and then you click on cases and then scroll down to Melissa, and here is all the information that Kathleen has posted on Melissa's case, where there's videos. So like, even when I'm on here, and the first video you see is from April 18th of this year hearing, I'm actually seated behind, well, not by, because it was Kathleen at the table, and then Doug, her partner. I was behind Doug, and I was next to Melissa's sister, Crystal. But she's got, both the 48 hours episodes are on there. State's brief, Zellner's brief, case overview, all the press. Yeah, so you can go read it there, and you can go on our Facebook page. Laura says, what's the difference between a sheriff's department and a police department? I'm from England, so we don't have sheriffs. Well, our stuff is divided all weird, you know, so when you live in one area, you're like governed by the police department. And then when you live in some outskirts thing, then your law enforcement is the sheriff's department. It's all weird, and I don't really understand the need to have both in populated areas. Roll says, Barb being present would not have helped. A trained, intelligent law enforcement interviewer can steer a minor and parent both in the direction he wants. Excellent point, because I believe Barb has a similar IQ level to Brendan. So the two of them would be no match. Alex says, I was thinking when I was watching those confession tapes, if I would be in that room, they would charge me just for being so nervous. I wouldn't pass that polygraph, probably not written correctly. So it's also complex. That's unbelievable. Yeah. Julie says, seems if you ask for a lawyer, they assume you are guilty. They try to use it against you. Yeah. And hi, Danielle. Deborah says, if you are innocent and start talking, they will keep you there until they have what they want you to say. Yeah, you can see some of that. Well, you see it with Brendan. And then when you watch the Melissa Kaluzinski stuff, you will see it in there too. I think they had like a running tally too of all the times Melissa told them she didn't do this, she didn't do this, she didn't do this. And then now all of a sudden she's admitting to it. Liz says, I'm praying for my charges to be dropped because false statement was made by the other person stating I put my hands on them when I didn't. It was a verbal agreement. And that's what I said. No pics, no evidence. So I spent a month in jail, epileptic, not getting all my meds, and had 14 seizures in 1 month. My boyfriend, my lawyer, and I are working on my case. I got a felony and misdemeanor on Trump B's report. Oh my God, 14 seizures in 1 month. I can't imagine. I'm so sorry, Liz. Julie, was I wearing a pink top? Yes, because pink is Melissa's favorite color. And I'm weird like that. So I wear their favorite color when I go to court. So like another one of Kathleen's clients, Kent Pellegrini, his favorite color is baby blue. So I always wear baby blue to his hearings. Millie says, sorry, I'm from UK. Who is Melissa? Melissa Kaluzinski is another one of Kathleen Zellner's clients who's in prison for a murder she didn't commit. And she was coerced into a false confession, and she has a low IQ, and the county is corrupt, and there's so much in there on that. Julie says, sheriff is countywide. Police department are for the townships and cities. Sometimes they join forces. Then we have the state police. I know, so many different people being paid for the same thing. Natasha says, it's like the RC Mounted Police, that's what it stands for, right? RCMP, and is rule in Canada. Some towns and cities have town and city police departments, two separate entities, same laws. Yeah. Maggie, over 70 times Melissa denied it. Yeah. Roll says, doesn't matter if you deny 70 times, agreeing once is enough for them to use against you. It's horrible. Ooh, and I'm down at the bottom. Whoop, whoop. So, in Melissa's case, they doctored the x-rays of this little boy to make it look like he died from Melissa dropping him on the ground. And then they sent the defense these x-rays that you couldn't really tell anything on. And Melissa's dad, if you've watched another one of Kathleen's clients, the Ryan Ferguson story, Dream Killer, right? Dream Killer. And Ryan Ferguson's dad, Bill Ferguson, Paul Kaluzinski is like that. The fight he does for his daughter, you cannot imagine what this man has done trying to free his daughter. And he was able to get somebody came to him and gave him where the correct x-rays were to prove that that boy didn't die the way that they claimed in court. And so then they got it. So the cause of death, which was listed on the death certificate as homicide, was changed to undetermined. So Melissa is still sitting in prison for something that's not even ruled as a homicide right now. It's listed as undetermined, yet she's still there. Laura says, is it just me? Oh, and it's like Brendan, because Brendan likes to say that he is the complete and innocent Brendan Dassey, because his conviction was overturned. His confession was tossed, yet he still sat in prison. You're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. You now tossed it. So Brendan should have been able to be free until they were deciding what they were going to do with him next. Melissa should be free. That says undetermined, not homicide. So until you determine, how can she be doing time for that? Laura says, is it just me that worries that KZ is a target because certain people don't like what she is doing? Oh, she's got a security team. She knows. So she's well taken care of. Millie says, thank you for answering, Jax. Seems like they prey on the weak over there. Yeah. Alex says, ha ha ha, Slovenia is so small, we only have police. Mike says, have to watch this now. What was it on YouTube? It's 2 different 48 hours episodes. The first one's called Blaming Melissa, and then the follow-up is The Fight for Melissa. And so when you see, so this first thing on Kathleen's page of this oral argument that was on April 18th, which also in Illinois this was groundbreaking. They have never allowed cameras in Illinois in a courtroom like this before for this hearing. So Melissa's case just this past April was the first one. Where was I going with that now? I get distracted with what I'm saying. Yeah, I don't know my name. So you can watch that whole hearing there, as well as Fight for Melissa and Blaming Melissa. And so that's why, too, whenever you see Kathleen Zellner's tweets, and she's always adding Erin Moriarty, that's because Erin Moriarty is 48 Hours that does the Melissa case. So at this April hearing, Erin Moriarty flew in for it. So I even gave her one of Melissa's wristbands that I had made. And I took a picture. I asked her if I could take a picture of her with Paul to post up on Melissa's page, so you can see that there. And also, as Kathleen was walking up to court, you could see she was walking with Erin Moriarty, and Erin Moriarty's cameras were in front of them walking backwards. And I took pictures of that as well. You can see all those, on Melissa's Facebook page. So Millie, that's where, so you can find it off of Kathleen Zellner's website, which is KathleenTZellner.com/Melissa-Kaluzinski, or just Google 48 Hours Blaming Melissa and Fight for Melissa. And we got 5 minutes left. Alex, yeah, Ryan's dad is awesome. Isn't he? I love him. Another great family from one of these horrible stories. And I think this is actually the true crime documentary that affected me the most, that I then tell people don't watch it, is called Dear Zachary. I don't know if it is still on Netflix. Dear Zachary. The parents in that are unbelievable. But I tell people don't watch it because just me talking about it now fills my stomach, just a pit of despair. It is such a horrible story and so sad. I ugly cried watching that. Sobbed so hard that, when you're crying so hard and no sound comes out of your mouth? That's Dear Zachary. Oh my God, Dear Zachary. And I bought the book, downloaded it on my iPad, and I started it, but it's hard. It's really hard. Okay, let's stop thinking about Dear Zachary. Millie says, not finished Dream Killer, but his dad was amazing. Yeah. Mamie says, good night, Jax. Thanks for hosting again. We'll research Melissa's case. Have a great new year. You too, Mamie. Jessica says, I need to look up her case. Please do. This is a case that needs to making a murderer treatment, because it's horrible what was done to this girl. Renee says, do you think him throwing his head back caused it? It's hard for me, Renee, to answer that, because that is a case that I am very, very involved in. And so I know things that I'm not allowed to say. And I'm not trying to sound like a douchebag that I'm so important. But I don't know what I can say. So we're actually going to be doing a Facebook Live with Paul Kaluzinski, Melissa's dad. And he will tell all. And whatever he tells you, he will tell you. So you'll have to stay tuned for that. The child did have a previous injury, yes. Her interrogation is on YouTube as well. Thank you, Heidi. Liz says, I'll have to watch that when my son goes to bed. And Heidi says, it's so sad. Melissa is she's such a sweet, I'm going to call young lady. But, I'm old, so she's a young lady to me. So just like I say with full conviction, now I've met Melissa. I've never met Brendan. I've talked to Brendan on the phone. But just like I'll say with Brendan, there's no way Brendan could commit this crime. No way. I am convinced that Brendan did nothing and knows nothing about it. I don't think he's covering for Bobby. I don't think he partially saw something. It's not in me to believe that Brendan, he doesn't know anything. And Melissa, there's no way this girl harmed a baby. Accident, intentional. If she dropped that baby and this thing happened from an accidental drop, she would say she accidentally dropped. Ooh. So can we see Melissa's case on YouTube? Yes. Because I used to watch 48 Hours, but I've not lately. Yes, you can see it on YouTube. I've watched it like 4 times. Laura says, I honestly can't thank you enough for doing this. Being from the UK, we don't hear as much, but being in these groups, I can keep up to date, and I fully support Stephen and Brendan. I hope to God they are free soon. Knock on wood. Maz says, why only 5 minutes left? Because I started at 4, and I try to hold these to 2 hours, and my boyfriend's on his way home from work. So, so it's 6 o'clock right now, so I should be ending right now, but I'm going to keep scrolling to either the bottom of your questions and comments or whenever he gets home, whatever comes first. Good. Everybody, there's your homework. Watch Blaming Melissa and Fight for Melissa. Natasha says, wonder what the T is for. Terminator, hopefully. Kathleen Terminator Zellner. Oh my God. Now people are talking about Dear Zachary. Oh my God. I'm going to have to watch that again. It's been like 2 years since I saw that. And I was just infuriated with, again, laws that need to be changed. Oh my God, Dear Zachary. Alex, thanks, Jax, for everything you do for Stephen, Brendan, Melissa, and probably many more. You are awesome. Yeah. And thanks for being so nice. Oh, God, I'm not nice. But glad you think so. Caroline says, thanks, Jax. Enjoy your movie later. Not going. Was going to go to a movie. That's what I was telling my boyfriend, not going, because the movie we wanted to see isn't anywhere nearby. I'd have to go into Chicago. And I'm just not in the mood. Deborah says, Jack's awesome discussion. Thanks for going live for us. Haha, 3 times. I know. Innocent Man on Netflix. Now I watched it. That didn't really keep my attention either. I kept falling asleep. I've now watched the whole thing, but it didn't affect me like Making a Murderer or Blaming Melissa or Dream Killer or Central Park 5. You know, certain ones just get you. And Innocent Man didn't grab me. Mike says, off to watch Melissa's case. Happy New Year, everyone. Thanks, Jax. Well, everybody will have to let me know what you think about Melissa, and we'll be doing a Facebook Live just to talk about Melissa's case. Renee says, I don't think you're being an ass, for the record. Liz says, that case, Sister Kathleen on Netflix was horrible because she was killed because she was going to rat on priests in the school she worked at in Baltimore, Mount Carmel. It was so sad. It's still unsolved. Oh, boy. Chelsea says, I honestly think Melissa's case is just like Brendan's, mostly because of the way she was interrogated. Unfortunately, most people don't know that you can walk out of the room without getting in trouble. Right? I would think that too. And that's the whole thing too. You'll hear in Brendan's case, that whole read technique thing. And so you learn about that when you go see Brendan's lawyer speak, where they show you all the things that was done to Brendan that's part of this read technique, you know, from where you're sitting and all the, you know, every little, nothing's an accident, and how that is on closing you off, you know, because I would think if I'm in there, I'm in there until they tell me I can go. I know you have to say, are you charging me? If you're not charging me, I can leave. But I would never think to do that because, oh my God, I'm being disrespectful to an authority figure. And if I do that, I look guilty, and then they're going to handcuff me. Oh my God, that's another thing you need to watch. Sandra Bland. That is on HBO On Demand. It's called Say Her Name. Sandra Bland was murdered in Texas while in police custody. She is from here by me. She actually went to the same high school as I do. And in my whole activism world, I am Facebook friends with her mom. And I went to a screening of Say Her Name. So that's something else you could watch. Say Her Name. They claim she killed herself while in police custody, that she hung herself. But you watch that documentary and you will see they killed her. Oh, God, it's horrible. Heidi says, Happy New Year's, Jax, and thank you for all you do. Happy New Year's to everybody. Caroline says, you know what day night this interview will take place? It will be on a weekend. We're looking at January 5th or 6th, and I'm not sure on time because the person does not live in the States. So we got to do a time that works for them out of the country. So, but looking at January 5th or 6th, we should have this confirmed early next week. Well, you got the holiday too. So, but sometime next week. Well, it has to be sometime next week because the 5th or 6th is right around the corner too. Sorry. Yep. You got to find that too, Heidi. Laura says, do you want to go visit Stephen, or have you already? I'm not on Stephen's visitors list. And Stephen no longer likes me, apparently, because I won't promote the fundraisers for his family to rip off supporters. So, yeah, Stephen doesn't like me anymore, I guess. I haven't heard from him since Carla had threatened me with, Stephen will be hearing about this, and I said, go for it. And so I haven't heard from Stephen since. So, so Carla got Stephen back underneath her wing and whatever. Because the thing that I say all the time, other than saying the thing I say all the time, is I believe in Stephen's innocence. I don't need to be his friend to support his innocence. So I will continue on as I've been. Chelsea says, every law needs to be changed. Yeah. Amber, what did I miss? The state and then the court ruled against Zellner's stay to do the scientific testing. So now Kathleen has until February 1st to file her brief. Heidi says, I fell asleep on Innocent Man and The Keepers. Millie says, I can't get into Innocent Man for some reason, but I can't watch MAM over and over again. Alex says, holidays and I get homework anyway. How is this fair? Yep. San says, I couldn't finish Innocent Man. I finished it, but I can't really even remember how it ended. Tiffany said, where can I stream the episodes about Melissa? It's only 2, Blaming Melissa and Fight for Melissa. They're on YouTube or on Kathleen Zellner's website. Michelle says, sorry if this was already talked about. I have been so busy with work the past few days. I haven't been following what is going on. Did they deny Kathleen access to test the bones? I am hoping that was just a rumor I saw. They denied the stay to do the testing. So now she was supposed to file by December 21st, right? And so she filed for a stay because she wanted to then do this testing. But instead, she's been denied the stay. So now she still has to do her filing. Doesn't mean she can't do the testing. She has to still pursue the avenue in tandem of doing her filing. And now she has till February 1st to turn it in. Tammy says, what page do I look for Melissa? It's called Official Justice for Melissa Kaluzinski Official Family Page. Maz says, I kept falling asleep during Innocent Man. Still haven't watched it. Dana says, the staircase didn't really capture my attention much. Haven't got through the first episode yet, but I'll try again. I liked the staircase interested me, but he's guilty. And it's not an owl. Heidi said, Melissa's stuff is on YouTube. Linda said, just tuning in. What is the case about Melissa? Melissa is another client of Kathleen Zellner's, Melissa Kaluzinski. And she's in prison for a murder she didn't commit, and she was forced into confessing. Alex says, say her name is Nasty. Nasty how? Tanya says, they killed Sandra Bland bigger than shit. Oh, God, that's... And when I went to see the screening of the Sandra Bland story, her attorney and her sister were there for questions since they're local. And I knew about the case, but I had never really dove into it. But then watching that, it's like, there's no way that girl would have killed herself. No way. No way. I'm as sure of that as I am that Brendan and Melissa are innocent. No way that woman killed herself. Tim Miller said, definitely never moving to Wisconsin. Well, Tim, we already discussed this. Wisconsin, it's beautiful. There's just bad cops everywhere. Maz said, who killed her? The police? Yeah, police killed Sandra Bland. I don't know what that noise was. Heidi says only on HBO say her name. Yeah, because it's an HBO documentary, but I don't know if you Google it or whatever, if you can find it anywhere else. It's like hashtag say her name. Dana says, dang, I don't have HBO or I would watch say her name. Well, Google it and see if you can find it, because it's, or just read up on Sandra Bland. Desiree says, what did I miss jumping on just now? Who we talking about? Well, Desiree, we've been talking about, this has been a potpourri of things. So we've been talking about how the state and the court denied Kathleen's stay to do the testing. We talked about another one of her clients, Melissa Kalyazinski. We've talked about Sandra Bland and Ryan Ferguson and dear Zachary. Michelle says, what interview is this? I am so out of the loop. Damn this work, LOL. Ooh, Michelle, no, I don't know what interview. Oh, interview that I'm going to be doing. It'll be a Facebook Live that we're going to do with somebody who's actually covers both Stephen's case and Melissa's case. And I asked him if he would come on Stephen Avery Project to talk about Stephen's case, and he requested that he talk about Melissa's case instead, because he says Melissa's case needs the attention. So he's of the same thinking as I am. But he says that he would cover questions on Stephen's case as well, but he wants the bulk of the time to be spent on Melissa. Lily says, once he gets out and finds out all the shit, he'll see better. Maybe. Crystal says, just taking advantage of supporters. Tim says, what is Stephen like to speak with one-on-one? He's funny. And he surprises me. Because, I go into it thinking he's going to be this complete idiot. And he says some really smart things. Like, when I talk to him about how crazy some of his fans are, and I'm like, and Stephen too, all he cares about is money, how he can make money. And so I joked with him going, Stephen, you could cut your hair and put your hair in a Ziploc bag and people would pay money for your hair. And he went, yeah, I'm kind of not going to spread my DNA out all over. And it's funny and something, I just think of him as being a dum-dum. And, until and it's like, he's not as dumb as you think he is with the low IQ. And that was really funny, and he's just making a joke about it. And I totally didn't think of that as going, yeah, that's a dumb thing of, yeah, Stephen, give your DNA to some random weird woman who wants to buy your hair. I was just making a joke that, come on, those fans over there on those other pages are fucking insane. And they would kill themselves for a lock of his hair. And my first phone conversation with Stephen, I said to him, being upfront, is, Stephen, I'm not interested in you romantically, because I know a lot of the people, because he really only talks to women, and it's typically women that are single or who are flirting with him or whatever. That's what gets Stephen's attention. Go figure. Don't knock the guy for, wanting some female attention. But I told him from the get-go, whoa, my dog is hitting my cord down here underneath my desk. I'm not looking to date you, Stephen. I have no interest in dating you. And he just laughed, thought that was funny. But I had to put it out there because, again, when you see these people, yay, talk to Stephen today, they're flirting with him and all weird and stuff. And that's just not me. I'm here to support him. Hey. And that's that. I don't want any of that weirdness. And then he was always so positive that he's gonna get out. Always thinking it's just right around the corner he's gonna get out, when he should know by now that's not the way it works. Michelle says, why would they deny her access to the bones? They haven't denied access to the bones. They've just denied a pause in the current proceedings to do this testing. I hope I'm wording that correctly and makes it simple. San says, Stephen does like you. He knows you are his best supporter. Oh, San, no, he doesn't. He's got, so like other people he talked to, all right, real talk right now. There's a girl that I always make fun of who has a Facebook page that's basically a lawyer. And she talks to Stephen. Stephen told me that girl, when he talks to her, all she does is talk shit about me. That's all she wants to talk about, is how horrible I am. And he would just laugh about it. And so, and then there's this other group, Truth Wins, where there's people there who is like a big competition, that they were really bothered that Stephen would call Stephen Avery Project his official website. That's what he referred to it, since he doesn't get Facebook. He doesn't know the whole thing. And so then when they go to make their group, they called it official, whatever. So everybody wants Stephen to love them best. And we're the ones that he talks to, and I don't care. If Stephen were to call me right now, I would take his call and talk to him. It's not that I don't hate the guy, but I'm not here desperate for his approval and attention. And so he has a lot of people talking in his ear, telling him I'm a bad person and I'm a thief and this and that. And he's seeing right now that Carla's bringing in the dough. One of the things that Stephen asked me when I first took over Stephen Avery Project, is he wanted me to make Stephen Avery shirts and sell them so he could get the money. And so I asked Kathleen, and she said no, not to do that. She didn't want shirts sold for Stephen. So I listened to Kathleen, and it pissed Stephen off. But I tend to I'm going to follow Kathleen's directions on what is best for Stephen's case, not Stephen. So right off the bat, I upset Stephen because he wanted me to be selling shirts for him, and I wouldn't do it. So, and I know it made things uncomfortable. But then I told Stephen I would direct people to his commissary. That's all I'll do. Because that's what I was instructed to do by Kathleen. I'm going to go by what Kathleen says. Sorry. See, now it's 6:20 and I'm still on here yammering, but my boyfriend's not here yet. Desiree says, I had a feeling they were going to deny. Why wouldn't they fight against everything KZ is trying to do? Yep. Renee says, hopefully she doesn't wait that long, KZ. Julie says, Long Shot is excellent on Netflix. Short and miraculous. Oh, I haven't seen that one or heard that one. Alex says, nasty is sad and you get angry. Sorry, wrong word. Oh, no, I wasn't angry. I'm just asking what you meant by that. So no worries. Yeah, she was so murdered. And I didn't have an opinion one way or another, really. I had heard that there's no way that she had killed herself, but I didn't know the details. And then when you watch that, it's like, oh my God, there's no way she killed herself. Desiree says, oh, okay, I see. Thank you. Well, you're welcome. Deborah says, like Brendan's, I watched Melissa's interrogation and I was so furious. It was so completely coerced. It's just heartbreaking. And that's why, too, even though we did the juvenile interrogation protection law petition, well, Melissa was of age. So I think this should be no matter who you are, what your intellect is, what your age is, everybody, you should not be allowed to be questioned without an attorney present, period. And if you're truly looking for the truth of the case, nobody should have an issue with that. It should be filmed. Nothing should ever be done without a camera. Full audio and video, and a lawyer present. It protects everybody. Who's a single man? Tim says, LOL at the hair DNA joke. Thanks for your answer, Jax. I've been meaning to write him. Feel so bad for him. I always tell people to go ahead and write him. He doesn't write to many people. He typically only writes to people that he's going to flirt with. Sorry, being honest. He doesn't like writing because obviously you've seen his writing. He's, not the best at it. So, but in writing him a letter of support, you shouldn't be doing that with strings. And I'm not saying you're doing that, Tim. This is just me saying it in general. You're doing it as you're just being a supporter and want to brighten his day. Two of Kathleen's other clients that I advocate for, Melissa, and then there's Kent Pellegrini. They have told me letter truly brightens their day. It takes them out of what's going on, and they really enjoy reading that letter. And I know Stephen enjoys it as well. Just don't do it going, well, I want a letter back. That's where I say again, there's a difference between supporters and fans. A supporter, you just want to help Stephen however you can. You're not looking for, well, I want his signature and I'm going to frame it and, ooh, look, he's famous type thing. So you're just going to write him to make him feel better. Talk to him about where you're from, what you like, tell him about your family, tell him, like Stephen likes fishing and gardening and working on cars. If you know anything about any of that, talk to him about that, just stuff like that. Just, don't go into, he knows he's been screwed over, so don't make your letter be all about his case, because, you're trying to take him out of that mindset of only thinking about that. So tell him about your favorite movie. Or something I used to do with Brendan is I would send him jokes, and he likes cats. So I bought this book of these funny, weird cat joke things. And so I would send him a couple of the jokes with each letter. Things like that. Cindy says, is that show about Melissa on Netflix, and what is the name of the documentary? Melissa is from CBS 48 Hours. You can find it on YouTube, called Blaming Melissa and the Fight for Melissa. And then the documentary is HBO that I was talking about, and that is Say Her Name. And then we also talked about Dear Zachary, which was on Netflix. San says, your IQ can change. The more you learn, he's learned so much throughout this whole thing. Well, that's true, San. That's an excellent point. Laura says, anyone know where the drive round Jax did so I can watch it? I don't know what you're saying there, Laura. Heidi says, can we get bumper stickers that say we support Jax West and the innocent? That's funny. Julie says, is he bringing pizza home? Yes, my boyfriend asked me if I wanted dinner, but I'm not hungry right now. So I told him no. And I'm surprised he's not still here. Julie says, oh, Jax, you have to see it. Long Shot is about 40 minutes long. It is absolutely awesome. Sad with a wonderful ending. Well, nag me about it, Julie, because now with my boyfriend being home for the weekend, chances are I won't be looking for something to watch on Netflix until next week sometime. So I'll forget what the name of it is. So nag me. Alex says, no, sorry, Jax. I didn't mean you get angry. I meant that it makes you angry. There you go. The Say Your Name documentary. I agree with that. Sorry, yeah, my reading comprehension is off right now, Alex, I guess. Yeah, I got really angry watching that. And Julie is drooling for bacon. Maz says, can people also write to Melissa? Yes, you can. Just like I have for both Stephen and Brendan, where I have the picture that I post that has the address of where you can write to them. On Melissa's page, you can look in the pictures there, and I have the address there on where you can write to Melissa. And Melissa is really she really loves Halloween. And here comes my boyfriend. And horror movies. And she likes to draw. You know, she's an artist and really loves butterflies. Oh, there's Julie saying, and she writes back, she loves butterflies too. So, okay, so somebody already answered that. Laura says, do you still speak to Brendan? No, I haven't spoken to Brendan in 2 years. Oh, okay, the drive round. Yeah, you can find that in the videos here. So Tina says, in a nutshell, what's new? As I'm getting off now, since my boyfriend just got home, the state asked the court to deny Zellner's request for a stay so she can do the scientific testing, and the court agreed with the state. But that does not mean she can't do the testing. It just means the case doesn't go on pause for the testing. And now Kathleen has to file by February 1st. So, all right. That's everything. Hope everybody has a good weekend. I don't know when I'll be live next. You never know. Sometimes I just pop on here. And so we will talk soon. And I'm going to start ending this all the same way every time. Please be nice to the other posters in MAM Gossip. You can disagree, but don't be mean. Bye.